Good morning, good morning. It is Tuesday morning, means it's AA day. Hope everyone is having a wonderful day so far. I got exciting news this weekend. While we were in Long Beach, my friend from one of my best friends that I started working with a couple years ago, I will be working with her again starting the 22nd of September. Super excited. Can't wait. Good morning, Lily. Thank you for coming. I know you're probably taking a nap. Anyways, so, I usually put in the description, what book we're reading, the page we're on, what story we're reading, and all that good stuff. And please be, kind in the chats if you're going to chat. No judgment, no bullying, no harassment. Just because they're in there in the chat doesn't mean that they are the alcoholic. But anyways, y'all know what to do. So let's go ahead and say the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Lily, can you let me know if you can hear me? Thank you. Okay, 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, continue to take personal inventory and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, We try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. We're reading in the Big Book, chapter 8, page 110. 4. You may have a husband of whom you completely despair. He has been placed in one institution after another. He is violent or appears defiantly insane when drunk. Sometimes he drinks on the way home from the hospital. Perhaps he has had delirium tremens. Doctors may shake their heads and advise you to have him committed. Maybe you have already been obliged to put him away. This picture may not be as dark as it looks. Many of our husbands were just as far gone, yet they got well. Let's now go back to husband number 1. Oddly enough, he is often difficult to deal with. He enjoys drinking. It stirs his imagination. His friends feel closer over a highball. Perhaps you enjoy drinking with him yourself when he doesn't go too far. You have too far. You have passed happy evenings together, chatting and drinking before you're fired. Perhaps you both like parties, which would be dull without liquor. We have enjoyed such evenings ourselves. We had a good time. We know all about liquor. We know all about liquor as a social lubricant. Some, but not all of us, think it has its advantages when reasonably used. The first principle of success is that you should never be angry. Even though your husband becomes unbearable, you have had you have to leave him temporarily. You should. If you can, go without rancor. Patience and good temper are most necessary. Our next thought is that you should never tell him what he must do about his drinking. If he gets the idea that you are a nag or killjoy, your chance of accomplishing anything useful may be zero. He will use that as an excuse to drink more. He will tell you he is misunderstood. This may lead to lonely evenings for you. He may seek someone else to console him, not always another man. Be, be determined that your husband's drinking is not going to spoil your relations with your children or your friends. They need your companionship and your help. It is possible to have a full and useful life though your husband continues to drink. We know women who are unafraid, even happy under these conditions. Do not set your heart on reforming your husband. You may be unable to do so, no matter how hard you try. And this is for every spouse situation there is. The woman could be the alcoholic and vice versa. We know these suggestions are sometimes difficult to follow, but you will save many a heartbreak if you can succeed in observing them. Your husband may come to appreciate your reasonableness and patience. This may lay the groundwork for a friendly talk about his alcoholic problem. Try to have him bring up the subject himself. Be sure you are not critical during such a discussion. Attempt instead to put yourself in his place. Let him see that you want to be helpful rather than critical. When a discussion does arise, you might suggest he read this book, or at least the chapter on alcoholism. Tell him you have been worried, though perhaps needlessly. You think he ought to know the subject better, as everyone should have a clear understanding of the risk he takes if he drinks too much. Show him you have confidence in his power to stop or moderate. Say you cannot want to be a wet blanket, that you only want him to take care of his health. Thus, you may succeed in interesting him in alcoholism. He probably has served alcoholics among his own acquaintances. You might suggest that you both take an interest in them. Drinkers like to help other drinkers. Your husband may be willing to talk to one of them. If this kind of approach does not catch your husband's interest, it may be best to drop the subject. But after a friendly talk, your husband will usually revive the topic himself. This may take patience, waiting, but it will be worth it. Meanwhile, you might try to help the wife of another serious drinker. If you act upon these principles, your husband may stop or moderate. Suppose, however, that your husband fits the description of number two. The same principle which applied to husband number one should be practiced, but after his next binge, ask him if he would really like to get over drinking for good. Do not ask that he do it for you or anyone else. Just would he like to? The chances are he would. Show him your copy of this book and tell him what you have found out about alcoholism. Show him that as alcoholics, the writers of the book understand. Tell him some of the interesting stories you have read. If you think he will be shy of a spiritual remedy, ask him to look at the chapter on alcoholism. Then perhaps he will have interested enough to continue. If he is enthusiastic, your cooperation will mean a great deal. If he is lukewarm or thinks he is not an alcoholic, we suggest you leave him alone. Avoid urging him to follow our program. The seed has been planted in his mind. He knows that thousands of men, much like himself, have recovered, but don't remind him of this after he has been drinking, for he may be angry. Sooner or later, you are likely to find him reading the book once more. Wait until repeated stumbling convinces him he must act, for the more you hurry him, the longer his recovery may be delayed. If you have a number three husband, you may be in luck. Being certain he wants to stop, you can go to him with this volume as joyfully as though you had struck oil. He may not share your enthusiasm, but he is practically sure to read the book and he may go for the program at once. If he does not, you will probably not have long to wait. Again, you should not crowd him. Let him decide for himself. Cheerfully see him through more sprees. Talk about his condition on or this book only when he arrives. If he rises the issue, in some cases, it may be better to let someone outside the family present the book. They can urge action without arousing hostility. If your husband is otherwise a normal individual, your chances are good at this stage. You would suppose that men in the fourth classification would be quite hopeless, but that is not so. Many of Alcoholics Anonymous were like that. Everybody had given them up. Defeat seemed certain, yet often such men had spectacular and powerful recoveries. There are exceptions. Some men have been so impaired by alcohol that they cannot stop. Sometimes there are cases when alcoholism is complicated by other disorders. A good doctor or psychiatrist can tell you whether these complications are serious. In any event, try to have your husband read this book. His reactions may be one of enthusiasm. If he is already committed to an institution but can convince you and your doctor that he means business, give him a chance to try our method. Unless the doctor thinks his mental condition too abnormal or dangerous. We make this recommendation with some confidence. For years, we have been working with alcoholics committed to institutions. Since this book was first published, AA has released thousands of alcoholics from asylums and hospitals of every kind. The majority have never returned. The power of God goes deep. Hi, Ivan. You may have the reverse situation on your hands. Perhaps you have a husband who is at large, but who should be committed. Some men cannot or will not get over alcoholism. That's what's funny in there. When they become too dangerous, we think the kind thing is to lock them up. But of course, a good doctor should always be consulted. The wives and children of such men suffer horribly, but not more than the men themselves. But sometimes you must start life anew. We know women who have done it. If such women adopt a spiritual way of life, their road will be smoother. If your husband is a drinker, you probably worry over what other people are thinking, and you hate to meet your friends. You draw more and more into yourself, and you think everyone is talking about conditions at your home. You avoid the subject of drinking even with your own parents. You do not know what to tell the children when your husband is bad. You become trembling recluse, wishing the telephone had never been invented. We find that most of this embarrassment is unnecessary. While you need not discuss your husband at length, you can quietly let your friends know the nature of his illness. But you must be on guard not to embarrass or harm your husband. When you have carefully explained to such people that he is a sick person, you will have created a new atmosphere. Barriers which have sprung up between you and your friends will disappear. With the growth of sympathetic understanding, you will no longer be self-conscious or feel that you must apologize as though your husband were a weak character. He may be anything but that. Your new courage, good nature, and lack of self-consciousness will do wonders for you socially. The same principle applies in dealing with the children. Unless they actually need protection from their father or mother, it is best not to take sides in any argument he has with them while drinking. Use your energies to promote a better understanding all around. Then that terrible tension which grips the home of every problem drinker will be lessened. Frequently, you have felt obliged to tell your husband's employer and his friends that he is sick, when as a matter of fact he was tight. Avoid answering these inquiries as much as you can. Whenever possible, let your husband explain. Your desire to protect him should not cause you to lie to people when they have a right to know where he is and what he is doing. Discuss this with him when he is sober and in good spirits. Ask him that you should do if he places you in such a position again. But be careful not to be resentful about the last time he did so. There's another paralyzing fear. You may be afraid your husband will lose his position. You're thinking of the disgrace and hard times which will befall you and the children. This experience may come to you, or you may already have had it several times. Should it happen again, regard it in a different light. Maybe it will prove a blessing. It may convince your husband he wants to stop drinking forever. And now you know that he can stop if he will. Time after time, this apparent calamity has been a boon to us, for it opened up a path which led to the discovery of God. We have elsewhere remarked how much better life is when lived on a spiritual plane. If God can solve the age-old riddle of alcoholism, He can solve the problems too. We wives found that, like everybody else, we were afflicted with pride, self-pity, vanity, and all the things which go to make up the self-centered person. And we were not above selfishness or dishonesty. As our husbands began to apply spiritual principles in their lives, we began to see the desirability of doing so too. At first, some of us did not believe we needed this help. We thought on the whole we were pretty good women, capable of being nicer if our husbands stopped drinking. But it was a silly idea that we were too good to need God. Now we try to put spiritual principles to work in every department of our lives. When we do that, we find it solves our problems too. The ensuing lack of fear, worry, and hurt feelings is a wonderful thing. We urge you to try our program, for nothing will be so helpful to your husband as the radically changed attitude towards him, which God will show you how to have. Go along with your husband if you possibly can. If you and your husband find a solution for the pressing problem of drink, you are, of course, going to be very happy. But all problems will not be solved at once. Seed has started to sprout in a new soil, but growth has only begun. In spite of your newfound happiness, there will be ups and downs. Many of the old problems will still be with you. This is as it should be. The faith and sincerity of both you and your husband will be put to the test. These workouts should be regarded as part of your education, for thus you will be learning to live. You will make mistakes, but if you are in earnest, you will not drag you down. Instead, you will capitalize them. A better way of life will emerge when they are overcome. I think I'm going to stop there. I'll read this next paragraph and I'm going to be done. Some of the snags you will encounter are irritation, hurt feelings, and resentment. Your husband will sometimes be unreasonable and you will want to criticize. Starting from a speck on the domestic horizon, great thundercloud of dispute may gather. These family decisions or disingenuous, whatever that word is, are very dangerous, especially to your husband. Often you must carry the burden of avoiding them or keeping them under control. Never forget that resentment is a deadly hazard to any alcoholic. We do not mean that you have to agree with your husband whenever there is an honest difference of opinion. Just be careful not to disagree in a resentful or critical spirit. So, some people don't believe in God, but they believe in a higher power, spirit, those things. And I know for me, when I was drinking, my husband would plead with me all the time. Please stop drinking. Just stop drinking. It didn't do any good. Even when I was faced with losing my kids and my husband, it wasn't enough for me to stop. I had to get hurt to stop the first time. But I didn't stop for a long, long period of time. 1 year I had quit for. Then I went back out. And going back out and then coming back with with the same intentions of not going to drink anymore. I still hadn't started AA until a friend of mine was like, "Why don't you meet me at an AA meeting?" So I did that. And from then on, I've had a group, I've had sponsors, I've had sponsees. I work my program every single day. Um, Whether I realize it or not, in every aspect of my life, I carry AA with me. I use it in everyday decision making, all of it. I cannot go back and drink. I cannot, and I will not. Um, One reason for my health, it's not worth it. It's not worth dying that slow death. Um, my birth father was an alcoholic. He passed away a few years ago, and he was still drinking. So I know that not all of us get it. I think maybe if he had, maybe he would have been a different person. He wouldn't have hurt me and my sister the way he did. But either way, he passed an alcoholic, still drinking. I don't want that for me. I do not want that for me at all. I actually have a life uh, without the alcohol, and my life has been so much better without the alcohol. So, I mean, it's worth doing your steps and taking those higher routes of having that higher power, whether you believe in God or not. Um, you know, just just know that there is that hope that you can get out of it. You can get out of the alcohol if you want it bad enough and for yourself. You can't want it for somebody else. You have to want it for you to better yourself, to make your life better. Because if you're not better, you can't help anybody else be better. And that's what I tell all of my sponsees. You have to make you better first. Because if you're not good, no, it's not going to be good. So do it for the right reason. Do it for you. And just know that there's a program and it works. It worked for me. It's working for me daily. I don't know where I'd be if I had not have gone to AA and had my sponsors and my sponsees and being able to do these meetings here and live a sober life. Um, you can do it. You really can. And it's been 6 months since I smoked a cigarette. I'm pretty proud of myself. And I was just with smokers this weekend for the whole weekend in the same room, but smoking outside, of course. But I was still with them all weekend, and they smoked, and I could have said, "Hey, give me a cigarette," and I didn't. So I'm really proud of myself. My husband too. We both quit smoking 6 months ago, so pretty excited about that. Uh, I can breathe a little better, a little better. I'm not making it worse, so that's a plus. But anyways, guys, I just figured I'd do a meeting today. Sorry I didn't do one Sunday. I was at the coach. Um, I've got videos coming out for that probably in the next couple of weeks. Um, I'm still doing the ones from the concert, so bear with me, guys. I'm not editing them. I have to pick which ones I'm not going to get copyright for and stuff like that. So, um, but I love you guys. Be safe out there. Be kind and remember, stay sober.